Welcome to BrotoGP. Sepang just happened. I'm Kevin, joined by my man Rob and my man Dennis. It is episode 127, not unlike the 127 hours I had to wait before cutting my arm off to have a non-Marc Marquez win. So that being said, episode 127, Sepang. Some stuff happened, some stuff didn't happen. We will do an episode on the stuff that happened and didn't happen. As you can tell, I'm already a little tipsy on this champagne. It's all that I had. Rob's got a gin and tonic. Dennis is our the dad who's trying to act like he's cool for not drinking, but I'm pretty sure he's been day drinking all day long. He's got beers hiding in the back end of the toilet. BroGP, go.
What's up, guys? Let's get into this. Well, before we do that, of course, this episode is brought to you by Riders Law. They're your California motorcycle accident injury lawyers. Please give lawyer Rob and Cy a call if you need any legal help. Say you got into an accident, you're getting screwed around by someone, you need someone on your side in the courtroom. If you're drinking champagne and riding your motorcycle, don't call Riders Law. Well, actually, no.
We don't have to worry about that.
First of all, I was allegedly drinking champagne. I was accused, and I would see my day in court because this is America, and I have a right to a speedy trial and a right to face my accuser. If you've been riding a motorcycle and feel that those rights are being denied to you like a goddamn American, you're going to call Cy at riderslaw.com, and he will fight for your right to party responsibly.
Agreed.
If this is your first time tuning in to BrotoGP and wondering why they claim they're a motorcycle podcast and they've been low-key endorsing drinking and riding in the first 30 seconds, that is because BrotoGP is not unlike your normal podcast, i.e. we are entertaining. So you can, if you want to go to sleep or you want to make yourself go deaf by stabbing yourself in the eardrums with a pencil to stop listening to the Paddock podcast, you can listen to that. If you want to have fun and you want to enjoy and you want to increase your enjoyment level of the MotoGP sport, you can tune into the BrotoGP podcast and you can listen to us. Obviously, if you're listening to us on YouTube, you can also get us on all of the audio platforms and vice versa.
And for everyone on YouTube, Kev is wearing a shirt with a high chihuahua on it right now. Kev, yes. Will you please tell me about your shirt?
Yeah, why does it say Black Sheep?
I mean, Black Sheep's
I can tell you that.
Hip-hop band.
So this dog's name is Tinkerbell.
Really?
And this dog, Tinkerbell, is owned by probably the toughest guy I've ever met in my entire life. A guy who could, I'm a pretty tough guy. I'm not the toughest guy, but I can hold my own, right? I can hang. And this guy, I would say, submits me 5 times a day.
So Black Sheep Jiu-Jitsu then?
Yes. So it's his dog. He is a straight up absolute savage. And Tinkerbell is a rescue dog that he rescued and is an amazing animal that I don't think I've ever seen move. She just sleeps in like a sleeping bag and he carries her everywhere. And then she goes in the basket of his bicycle and he rides his bicycle with his basket like he's Dorothy and she's Toto, and it's amazing. That's all pretty personal life stuff. That being said, this shirt is pretty rad, but you'll also notice that Rob is wearing a super rad shirt, which you can't get anymore, so you can suck a dick. But there are some other super rad BroGP shirts that you can still buy in limited stock while we work on our winter collection.
Oh. Yeah, winter collection. I actually met with the printer today. It's happening. There will be.
Oh my god.
Well, and I met with the printer today based on, you can tell from this hat that I'm wearing,
Yes.
But whatever, we'll get there. As you can tell, BrotoGP is pro enjoyment of alcohol, pro animal rights, and pro t-shirt printing.
Yes, we are.
All right, let's jump into some motorcycle racing. So I thought one of the cool things about Sepang was that, and actually the Phillip Island round before, was that we finally got more hints of a Marc Marquez Maverick Vinales battle. I think
that's all it is, though. They're just hints still,
Yeah, I mean, okay. No, to be fair, Phillip Island was not really a hint, right? There was legit a last lap battle. It just so happened that one of the racers was dominant and just pooing the other guy.
Yeah.
So
that
let's
was
start
the
with
longest edging ever with the quickest finale ever.
I was just thinking it was like getting edged. God damn, great minds think alike. I mean,
Yeah, but the payoff was too quick and too soon and too little. It's just like, God
it,
damn it.
It was early.
it
It was only halfway through the lap.
I get edged too long. Like the edging was too long, and then the fucking nut hurt a little bit. Like there's a fine line when you're edging someone where the fucking nut is actually gonna hurt a little bit when it happens. Like the shit is too inflamed, and so you gotta know where that line is. And just before the sweet spot is when the edging has to climax, so to speak.
You said the phrase "too inflamed." I
yes.
feel like
too inflamed.
My junk just did not appreciate that sentence.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so it was actually kind of a weird crash.
I feel like
Maverick Vinales.
Phillip Island was like getting edged. I'm almost good, and then just boom, finger in the prostate, but too quick, not warmed up enough. Done. I'm out. It's over.
Yeah,
I'm done.
yeah.
That was Phillip Island. I'm out. You cannot just hit me with the fucking pee massage right off the bat. Done. But Sepang, on the other hand, that was a simmer. That was a build.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Phillip Island for like 5 minutes. Dennis.
Oh, okay.
Dennis, go.
No, Phillip Island. That's fine. We're going to talk about Phillip Island for 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Oof, that's longer than the battle lasted.
Oh, God damn it. Okay, we get that. So Marc Marquez essentially was rolling off probably the final, down the front straightaway for the last third of the race. It really looked like Maverick Vinales was getting a terrible drive out of the final corner, was allowing Marquez just to sit behind him, and it was pretty obvious that Marquez wasn't going to show his cards. I actually was watching the race with Luca and told her like halfway through the race, like, oh yeah, Marquez is just going to pass him into the first corner on the final lap.
But do we mind that he was rolling off during the race, on the front straight?
I actually don't mind. It takes me back to like the days of Rossi when Rossi just toyed around with his competition. It made for a better race. If Marquez had pulled in front like halfway through or a third of the way through or 2/3 of the way through the race and just held a 2-second gap, shit would have been boring.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why people were mad. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't really root for Marc Marquez, and like 3/4 of his fans can, die. Yeah. But I don't care. But he's not just. That was smart tactics. If he doesn't feel like he needs to play his final hand, if he doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to play the cards unless you feel the need to. You don't put it out there. Like, it doesn't matter if you win. What was that fucking you could win by a foot or a mile. What was the
an
fucking
inch
Fast and
or a
Furious
mile
comment? An inch or a mile. It doesn't matter. Right? It's like my brother used to say about push-up contests. If you were going to have a push-up contest, because he could famously do like unbelievable amounts, and the question is how many you can do. Well, it was always one more than you can.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Like I never
right?
I don't even know how many he needs to. No, that's the opposite of Price is Right rules, bro. If you go over the limit, you lose. God.
No, but
damn.
like
the price is wrong, Bob.
You add like $1 or like 1 cent to the other guy, and that's all you need.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. Well, yeah, you don't want to be. Do you want to be that guy on The Price is Right that bets $1 more than the other dude?
Yeah, it's like
I don't know if you want to be
like on
that guy.
Family Guy. Remember, like
if it wins,
$29.99, $39.99. Fuck you. I mean, I don't dislike it at all. I think it was a smart ploy on Marquez. It was tactics, and it was showing. Hey, I'm not going to show what we're capable. We're only going to show the required amount of what we're capable of. And I think that's smart. Keep them guessing. Keep them on their back toes. You know what I mean? Or on their heels, so to speak. Back toes. Who has back toes? Wouldn't that be weird if you had toes in the back of your foot?
I mean, dogs kind of do.
Right.
Like,
and the guys in Exo Squad had like multiple thumbs in their feet and hands. If you remember Exo Squad.
I don't.
But I don't think it's bad at all. I think it was cool. I mean, whether it made for a more entertaining race or not, I mean, I suppose, I don't know, but it was the right choice. Don't show what you have.
I'm definitely going to go with more entertaining race. It put some pressure on Vinales in that final lap. It made sure that no one was pulled away. And we actually saw that Vinales, he tried too hard. I'm not going to say that he choked, but he definitely tried too hard to carry the pace over Lukey Heights. And it was such a weird
they also
crash.
have different tires, right? Well, I was going to ask you, Rob, like, because if I recall correctly, Maverick and Mark were on different tires at Phillip Island. I think Maverick was on the soft. Do you think had Marquez actually jumped in the front and Marquez was just, I mean, Maverick was just following him instead of leading him, do you think Maverick could have done a better job preserving the tires to last in the whole race towards the end?
I mean, we've seen interesting tire wear out of Yamaha all season long, and we'll probably get to that a little bit later, especially when talking about Fabio. I'm I hadn't even really thought about that. Let me check the spec sheet to see if they were actually on different tires because I don't
Yeah, I
remember.
thought I recall that Maverick ran the
While
softs and
everyone
Mark.
waits on bated breath and anticipation for Rob to check a spec sheet, after I just said this was a fun podcast, I will say one thing about the Mav. His post, race comments kind of interesting was that he was basically going to win or crash. That was his plan, and he was not settling for second. He had admitted earlier that he'd settled for podiums when he thought he could win earlier in the season, and his comments about I kind of liked it. Like I'm either gonna win or I'm gonna crash. Gonna go for it. I like the idea that he's viewing himself as not settling any longer. Like they're past that. And then of course the next weekend, the main
Yeah,
bulk of this podcast, he was able to win in
yeah,
dominant fashion. I mean,
right.
maybe not the most entertaining race ever. Kind of harken back, but that's I think the not entertaining is how you have to win on the Yamaha. You have to get out in front because he all season long he had a shitty start. He would pull fast laps with the leaders in the last half of the race, but he couldn't make up the ground. You get out in front. You don't let someone get in your slipstream. You run your race. That's how you're going to win on the Yamaha. You're not going to win battling on that thing.
Yeah, I think Maverick's Sepang race was him correcting his mistakes from the Australian race. Like getting to the
Right.
front as soon as he could,
Absolutely.
so he didn't have to worry about the tires. So
And you see what happened with Valentino, which is if you get stuck trying to battle, they're just so down on power that you just can't make it up. Anything you do is running tires harder. It's more dangerous. It's
yeah,
it's obviously more physically taxing. Like Maverick reminded me of Lorenzo in the best possible compliment, which
yeah,
was get out in front, don't be a head case. Like because Maverick's kind of a head case, it seems. Like I don't know him personally, but like you kind of get that feeling that he's very much a rider who goes on his proportional results. But he gets out in front, he's pounding out the laps, Alien Era 2008, 9, 10, and he's style riding, and he's untouchable.
I
He
actually
owned that race.
I kind of actually see Sepang and Australia as the same race, right? Like
a little bit.
with Maverick, right? He pushed
Same, but different.
he pushed
But
to the
same,
front.
same.
He pushed to the front as early as he possibly could, and then he kind of dealt with tire wear towards the end, but still sat in front. His race in Sepang was exactly the same thing, but he was just able to get to the front a little faster, and he didn't have to battle, or he had a tire wear advantage. Like it really seemed like Marquez had a tire wear advantage in Phillip Island. Maverick had it in Sepang.
Right.
The same thing was kind of true of Rossi, right? Rossi was at the front like for a couple of laps in the very beginning, and then had more significant tire wear issues. At Sepang, he didn't end up making it to the front, but he was able to pull that good pace, and then didn't have as much tire wear issues. So really, if Phillip Island had the same tire wear as Sepang, then Maverick would have walked away with it, and Rossi would have been on the podium or something like that. It's sad for me to see that Yamaha is so dependent on I guess I shouldn't say dependent on the tires they get. They just can't work around different tire situations.
Right. It seems like a very narrow set of parameters in which one guy can get the bike to win races.
Yeah. Or I mean, well, and everyone's kind of doing it on the chassis. Like even Fabio seems to go better at the tracks where all the other Yamahas go well at. It was actually, if anything, Fabio's race in Sepang was a slight outlier, but we'll get there. Dennis, to answer your original question, no, they were on the same rear tire, Maverick and Marquez at Phillip Island. It was the front tire that was different, but Maverick was not having trouble with the front tire at Phillip Island.
Okay.
Yeah, the crash was just super weird because it's almost like he forgot to bring the bike back straight up and down to switch directions. Like, because they come around the left-hander Lukey Heights, right? And they have to get on the brake kind of at the same time that they're pulling the bike over to brake for the right-hander. But he didn't. It's like he did it out of order because he was trying so hard to carry pace through the corner. Like when he hit the brakes, he definitely had more lean angle than Marquez did to the left, even though the next hand corner is a right. And I think the whole thing, like being downhill, hitting the brakes a little bit harder, carrying a little more pace, just unsettled the rear tire, made it come around, and then chucked him off the bike as he was trying to switch from hanging off to the left to the right. Like, I mean, if he had tried the whole motion just a little bit slower, probably wouldn't have crashed, but I still doubt that
Yeah,
he would have won the race.
but what he was trying to do was simply win the race, right? So like everything else, he pretty much threw everything that he could to
It
try to win
was
the race. Like
it was win or bin. It was what we've
exactly,
accused Marc Marquez of
yeah.
doing. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I think or go ahead, Gab.
I would just say it's kind of interesting that he said that, and then he learned his lesson, so to speak, and or at least adapted from that experience. And then the next race, 7 days later, 6 days later, was able to go out and win. He was competitive all qualifying and practice, and then he goes out and he runs the win that kind of harkens back, like I said, the Lorenzo days, but the heyday of when that Yamaha many times felt really untouchable. If they were in their zone, it was so hard to deal with because they could just pound out those metronomic laps. And for me, it wasn't obviously the most interesting race that ever happened. There was some crazy stuff in qualifying that Dennis posted a vlog about. You can check on the YouTube page. But
So
it
many
was
comments
interesting
on that. So many
it
comments.
was cool to see, and it was cool to have obviously a change of pace on what was going on, and to see Maverick return to form. Maverick hate and people kind of questioning him, this and that. He's won, he's won races every year since the year he won on the Suzuki and up, and he's still clearly the best Yamaha rider. Yes, Fabio has a bunch of poles and he's doing really well and lots of podiums, but Maverick seems to be the guy that's able to ride the Yamaha to actual race wins. I mean, Valentino's in a Ducati level stretch of no wins, and I'm not exactly sure he's going to be able to pull it off again. I kind of low key think he's not. But yeah, at some point, Maverick said that he stopped changing so much setup, they stopped chasing so much setup, and they stayed with one basic idea, and he's starting to be competitive again. And
Yeah, that
I
happened.
mean,
That
I
happened
don't know. I guess
earlier
this
this
what I'm
year.
getting at is it kind of remember shithead. Gets he's been getting that kind of like, oh, he's soft, or oh, he's not, he can't make it work, or oh, he's a whiner and all that. But he's the only one who's whined and then backed it up. Valentino sure as hell hasn't. Morbidelli hasn't. He hasn't whined either though.
Yeah. It wasn't quite the straight shootout that we've been hoping for like 2, 3 years now between Maverick and Marc. But I kind of like that chess match up at the front where Maverick was controlling the gap, and when he could see that Marc was making up a tenth or so here and there, that he would, pull out another tenth on his lap, and it just continued on throughout the race. So it wasn't like a physical shootout or dogfight between the two, but it's kind of like you guys watched that movie Hero?
I have seen it.
No.
At the very beginning, Donnie Yen versus Jet Li, where they just kind of battled, had the battle in their minds, but they didn't really have. It was kind of like that for me.
In
I
the
mean, for
mind
me,
only.
Yeah.
what was interesting for this race was it directly followed up like uh there was more tension for this race, and I was by one plea days similar situation happened, and then there was like a crash out, so it was like, oh, what's gonna happen? It was, even though there wasn't a lot of action, there was a lot of tension building because is Maverick gonna choke?
Hmm.
Is Marc Marquez holding back? Those kind of things. Because remember, he went from 11th to second in like one lap or whatever
Right.
the
In
actual number
three
was.
quarters of a lap. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So the question is okay, we just saw this, so we know a guy has potential to crash out. We know B, another guy did play his hand the last race. Is he not? Is he doing the same thing? So I was more enthralled by the race than I probably would have been otherwise. because of what had just happened. Knowing that Marc Marquez potentially has an ace up his sleeve that we're not sure of, and knowing that his tactics are quite a bit better and stronger than they have been in years past.
Right.
And can Maverick actually do this, or is he gonna make a mistake again by pushing too hard because he's in the win or bin mindset that he admitted? So
And
for
it's
me, even
interesting
though
that
they're
you bring that up because while he's doing that at the front, like, we got for example, the SRT boys who started at the front, but then they drifted backwards. So you kind of think, is that going to happen to Maverick as well?
right,
Well, I
yeah,
mean,
exactly, or
and we didn't see it from Rossi either. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff kind of building questions in that race, which was nice. I mean,
yes.
that's always what we want. Predetermined is boring as can be. So it's interesting, Kev, for you to bring up the classic Yamaha, like you have to get out front to take the sweeping lines. I mean, obviously the announcers kept saying it as well, but it really does seem like every time Yamaha gets the Sepang, they can somehow rely on that and other things go well for them, and that's how they can win a race. Like, but I mean, I remember back when Jorge was complaining about that, like, oh man, the second a Honda gets in front, they can just block you into the corner and drive out of the corner, and then there's nothing that can be done. Maverick thankfully was in front of Marquez for this race and was able to do it, and Marquez probably didn't have the one lap pace to be able to hold him off anyway. But it's just it's weird to see them come full circle on different tires, different electronics. Like, I mean, they're still using the same chassis because peak frame, but
Right, correct. Yes.
no, I mean, it would be nice if Yamaha was able to push past that to develop a motorcycle that actually had horsepower. But obviously, the other factories keep raising the game. They're doing it year on and year out, and they're
But
making it very difficult.
not really.
In what way?
This is interesting. Ducati's not raising their game. If anything, they're stuck. Look at their results this year versus the previous 2 years. Right?
You're right. Even
Suzuki is slightly raising their game, but not really. Like, they've got one win because Marc crashed out, and then Rins has one other win.
and
So
then one
yeah, I mean, are
legit
the
win.
facts are well? I mean, it was legit. Marc crashed out. That's legit.
Yeah.
I mean, but it, if you look at the results this season, like, it's just that Marc Marquez he's way the rest are doing, unless you're Johan Zarco getting taken out by one of the Suzukis, which was hilarious.
I mean, and Rins really tried to take Miller out too.
Right, Rins tried his fucking hardest, but I don't necessarily think that Yamaha is being left behind. The other factors are significantly raising. I mean, Yamaha won 2 races this year. Last year, they're improving, but I think it's just that Honda and Marc Marquez are gelling even more. Like, that bike is even more suited for his style. That bike allows him to push his unique style even more, but the rest of the Hondas aren't doing great, and the rest of the Hondas haven't been doing great for a while. Marc Marquez is getting better. His tactics, I mean, if he doesn't win, he gets second place.
I think
But
Matt Oxley published an article this week with a quote from Marquez that essentially asked him, like, hey, would you rather have a bike that is easier to ride but maybe a little less horsepower? And if you're asking anyone but Marquez, or like, you're asking a Yamaha rider, they would say
Right.
yes. I mean, there's even been rumors that Yamaha has actually reduced the horsepower on the 2019 M1 compared to the 2018 one in search of more rideability. Marquez said no. And it seems when he says that, you're like, oh, like he's just being Marquez or whatever. But then you really think he may actually be the only person on the grid that could say no and then take advantage of it. I mean, his results on the Honda are exactly that. Honda upped the horsepower this year. All the other Honda riders are doing crappier. He is doing better. He just beat the point total record in 18 rounds.
Yes. And it very much reminds me of Mick Doohan running the Screamer. They had the Big Bang engine, and that was, it's less power, but it's more rideability, more mechanical grip, all that stuff. And then Mick Doohan turns the script, flips the script and goes back to the Screamer because with leaded gas, that bad boy was putting out crazy power, and he was the only one that could ride the Screamer, right? But it had more power. it's the same thing with that's what Marc has reminded me of this season is kind of like just saying, yeah, give me more power, I'll work around it, I'll crash a bunch in practice and never get hurt because never gets hurt. I mean,
somehow.
well, not somehow. I mean, the modern. I don't really think it's a big mystery how they have you that picture of him fucking eating shit when he crashed chasing Fabio, like in midair, his whole Alpine Stars suit is blown up. Riding style, because everyone's riding style is based on the era they're in. His riding style that he's developed, could only exist in 2019.
Yeah, I actually have said that before. Like
He-
he has trained himself to be willing to crash more because he crashes so much and doesn't get hurt.
Right, and
Right?
he doesn't get hurt because safety technology is significantly better than even 5 years ago.
But
I
can I
was-
just
Yeah,
can I
Dennis,
just
go.
say as far as that crash in qualifying behind Fabio, before I talk shit, I was so worried when he got and he landed on his left leg because I was like, please don't be like straight up or like hyperextended because at that height, at that velocity, who knows what could have happened to his right leg or right knee.
I was actually worried about his wrist, his right wrist, because when he kind of was flying through the air and then he pulled his hands in and did the face plant, and the first thing that hit the
Oh,
ground
God.
was his hands. And I'm just like thankfully he must have like hit the wrist like flat on the asphalt and then it like hit into his chest or something. But I was shocked that he came away without a couple bones in his wrist broken. Like that was crazy to me. I also just sprained my wrist.
Same
So I
here.
think I'm.
And that's when I talk.
You did talk a little.
I
bit
mean,
of
just
shit.
the fact that he didn't fucking get a concussion when that face plant was gnarly. But I mean, the point that I was trying to make was that the guy had give me more power. I don't care about rideability because I'm willing to find the limits by crashing and then not crash in the race, and it's fucking amazing. But it's definitely a unique style that I don't think. I mean, that's almost sort of think that that's like Valentino's problem, right? Is the guy used to ride 500s. He cut his teeth riding 500s to start in the premier class. You couldn't do that. You can't unlearn certain things.
Well, and that's
You know what I mean?
that's even the complaint about Jorge now, right? Like he thinks that if he
Right.
crashes, he's going to end up in a wheelchair, and because of that, you're 2 seconds off the pace.
Done.
you're
Yeah, I
done.
mean, the moment you're thinking that, I mean, Rob, if you don't trust your fucking cams, get off the wall.
Yep.
If you don't trust your ropes, you're gonna fall. You're gonna slip. You know what I mean? Like if you don't trust your equipment or you're worried about the injury, like if you're thinking things like it would suck to crash because I'll be in a wheelchair as opposed to it'll just suck to crash, like you're adding too much specificity to the worry and you're gonna just make yourself like I'm not even talking
Everyone, that was a rock climbing reference, by the way, from
Yes.
Kevin. Cams off the
Yes.
wall. Yeah, ropes.
cams, ropes. Right, it's cams are dumb though because you should just have that gun they had in Cliffhanger that totally doesn't exist, but apparently you could just shoot into solid granite. It would just drive a piton directly in. That was a sweet movie.
I think that does exist. I think there's maybe not with a piton, but there's definitely like explosive, like bolt or nail things that use gunpowder and shoot stuff
Right.
into walls. But yeah, you would have to modify it to make it work for pitons or hangers or any sort of rock climbing tool.
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember what we were talking about now, but it just like I don't know what the fuck we we're
Perfect.
talking about. Rob will just edit this stuff. I don't know.
So, moving along from Maverick and Marc's race in Sepang, let me ask the two of you: are either one of you disappointed with the Fabio and even that Morbidelli result after starting at the front row?
I am less disappointed than Fabio himself. Did you see his face in the box after the race? He got into the box, sat down, and practically started crying, and I felt bad.
It was like what Hedeth when his quick shifter broke or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, but I just there were
Good.
there were
Good.
so many.
We need the fucking fire in someone. When he got that qualified, when he got pole, that dude was so stoked he broke his own fucking helmet. I'm ready for some fire. Give me the tatted up teenager who shouldn't even probably be in that position. Fucking hated that he didn't do well. I want to see those. I'm sick of fucking guys circling around. When they don't win, they get their own fucking branded flag and ride
as
around
well.
the track and all. It's fucking horse shit. Fabio was at his home race. He finally, he gets the best of Marquez in qualifying. He gets pole. He's fastest all fucking weekend. It's the team's home race. This is like his crown. This is his fucking coronation for race wins. And then he just drops a goose egg on everyone. If you want, you know what? If you want to go in there and be fucking heated and cry and show some man tears, I'm okay with that. It's 2019. You want to get some anger tears? Drop them. I don't want people that are just complacent just to be
tears.
there.
I know, right?
He's so mad that he didn't do well that he's fucking ready to fucking cry about it. That's great. Put it out there, man. I'm sick of I want someone with fire and passion. I want a Scott Redding, but in a situation with a bike and a mental and a mindset where he can win GP races. I want to see someone who's not just there to circle around and get paid a bunch of money. Like that kid was ready to fucking win.
He was ready, except the bike and the tires apparently weren't.
Right.
Like I was trying to make a quickie about Fabio and not the disappointment. It was more me gonna nerd out and say no, that was definitely gonna happen, which I guess I shouldn't have done because that's kind of Deb. But no, like looking at the lap charts for the whole weekend, Fabio never had the race pace. Like he was always 4/10 off of Marquez and Maverick if he was doing a long run. Like he managed to put like 21 laps on the software tire. I think he used it in FP3 and then ran it again in FP4 and got 21 laps out of it. It just but he was slow. Like he could pull out a fast lap for one lap on a tire kind of independent of its condition. But if you try to do it for 20 full laps, nothing. And then we saw exactly like you brought up earlier, Kev, like if you're a Yamaha at a track with a couple of drags out of slow corners and a couple of straightaways, you're not going to be able to pass people. And at some point, Morbidelli didn't get, what's the opposite of red mist? Like when you're crying and you're not riding fast?
Yeah. Blue tears? I don't know.
Yeah. So like Morbidelli was smart about his race and actually was able to figure that out and keep Fabio behind him. Right. Whereas Fabio just kind of was going balls to the wall at exactly the wrong time, never got the pace in the bike, and never put up a good fight to even beat Franco. So
yeah,
it was
whatever. I want the hothead. I don't need Fabio to like limp it home. Just get me a win, bro. We're talking about the same dude who has a sexy nun tatted on his arm. Have you seen that tat? He has like a straight up sultry ass sexy nun tatted on his arm. He has a nun tatted on his arm that looks like she is so DTF you don't even know. She's got a butt plug in right then.
Wait, is it like a Halloween costume nun, or is it just a regular nun that they somehow
It's just like
sexy?
a really hot nun.
So Halloween nun.
I'm gonna have to look at this. I don't understand.
No, for reals. Yeah, he has like a hot nun. I mean, pull it up. If we can put it on, you can fucking throw it in on the YouTube video. It's like a hot nun. You know what I mean? Like she looks like her name is like Sister Crystal. You know what I mean? Or Tiffany. You know what I mean? She's got one of those names. You know what I'm saying? Like.
All right, let's.
So
Google
all I'm
Images is
saying
not
is
helping.
Yeah, Fabio Quartararo tattoo. I don't go to Jen's MotoGP Sillies page. All she does is thirst trap those dudes, right? She's just constantly posting pictures of like nearly underage dudes, and she's just like salivating on them. It's fucking.
First of all, nearly. Second of all, girl knows what she likes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not hating. It's all good. It's all good. But I just mean if you want to find
stating the obvious, Rob.
If you want to find shirtless pictures of Fabio, that's where you go.
I found pictures of Fabio in like a terrible blonde wig with Loris Baz and some other dude.
Right.
That's not right. That's not right.
But while Rob types in shirtless French teenager pics, I'll keep talking. But all I'm saying is, Fabio being butthurt and upset and booty bothered and fanny flummoxed and all of those other fun phrases that you can say about being butthurt about not doing well. I'm actually cool with that. I like that. Show me some fucking passions. Show me some, you know what I mean? Like, you're fucking mad because he's not in the championship hunt. He's only there to get good results. And by good results, he means, like, at this point, he's set the precedent. He's a podium contender. I think if he's not on the podium, he's pissed.
That's true, but then talking about good results, like sixth and seventh is not a bad result at all, especially if you remember that this is still a rookie
Hey,
squad,
who
right?
got
This is like the
six? That
first year.
who got six at Phillip Island?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that was like 8 days ago, bro. You still can't remember. No
That's
one
because
gives a fuck who
we
got
already had a
sixth.
race, after
No
that, so
one cares. No one cares who got sixth.
I
that doesn't
agree.
make it a bad result.
Who said that no one remembers who got second in the championship?
Right.
It
If you
might have
ain't
been.
first, you're last, son.
I straight up cannot find this nun tattoo. This is
Oh
terrible.
my God, you suck. Let me
Just
send
My
it to
go
you.
to
Google
his
Fu is not
Instagram.
working around. There are a lot of things on his Instagram. Yeah, I probably should. No, I mean, okay, so Kev likes the 1-star review. Fabio gave this race a 1-star review, showed some emotion about it. Brilliant. I'm
Correct.
definite 3-star review because I think he should have known better and he should have went into the race a little bit smarter.
I already found it. She's got her she's biting her lip and she's like pulling her mouth down.
What's your
Oh,
search
fuck.
term? Is it his Instagram?
I just went to his fucking page. It's crazy. Here, I'm gonna fucking send this shit to you right now. I'm texting Rob. Isn't technology glorious? Seriously. I mean, it's slowly destroying our democracy one post at a time. But my girlfriend is hearing me talk about Fabio's sexy nun, and she just texted me some emojis that I'm gonna have to unfortunately have a conversation with afterwards.
Oh, oh my God, it's the one on his shoulder. Yeah.
It's on his fucking delt. Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'm gonna put this picture like over your over your face on the stream here.
Just make it a thumbnail for this episode.
My boy's got abs.
Okay, we'll do the thumbnail. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean,
we just went. Nope. Everyone just saw my desktop.
So I mean, yeah, I'm stoked that he's hot-headed and didn't like it. It's good. And you know what? For Morbidelli beating his teammate and getting like a 5th, 6th, or 7th, whatever position you got, because no one cares after 4th. Like, that's great for him because he's been outshined by Fabio this season. He's, the previous seasons he hasn't, done that well. Obviously, partly because the bike he was on. He's on a good team and a good bike this year, and he's steadily improving. And for Morbidelli, that's a good result, right? But for Fabio, no, it's podium or bust. It's podium or bust.
But you're stoked about Fabio being heated for
Yes.
for placing 7th. Tell me, are you stoked about another Marquez winning a championship?
You know what?
Are we going there?
Are we
going
going
there?
there? Hold on,
Let's
guys.
go.
I gotta pour.
Fill up the
a little
champagne. By the way,
I gotta fill up the champagne.
By the way, Franco getting 6th was not a good result. That's kind of his average. Like, he's gotten 5th multiple times. His worst is only 11th. Like, no, 6th and 7th are his average. So he might have been stoked, but for a Yamaha winning, for other bikes struggling with tire wear,
for being a front row start,
in FP4 when he led the session, he threw on a new rear tire. No one else did. That was kind of disingenuous. But so that didn't count. But Franco probably shouldn't be happy with 6th place. It only looks good because he got 11th in Phillip Island.
right?
But I mean, Dovey got one of his worst finishes of the entire year. Dovey got his worst finish in the entire year at Phillip Island because he choked and blew, I think, turn 2 on the final lap, and then was behind a pack of 4 other riders. So yeah, I mean, Franco got helped out with that one too.
Okay, so now that Rob just completely ignored Dennis's question and just talked
What was
about
the question?
how
Oh yeah, we're moving on.
Rob was like, "Let me hear." Dennis was like, "I got a question for you, Kev. I think you're gonna have a fun answer." And Rob's like, "Hey, can we talk about the guy that got 7th last race? That would
6th,
be
actually,
awesome."
but whatever.
Right. That's yeah. I mean, if I'm on the podcast and I tuned him out enough that 12 seconds ago, I can't remember what he said, none of our listeners cared. People were hitting the straight 15-second little circle button on their
The YouTube skip button.
skip.
Double tap.
Bam.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Double tap that shit.
They don't come here for the tech tapes. They go to the tech tapes for the tech tapes.
Correct. We need
Yeah.
more tech tapes. If you have tech questions, we should do more of those.
I'm gonna call
If
Kyle.
you want Rob to do more tech tapes, please like, share, and subscribe, but also comment that you want more tech tapes and even maybe the questions that you have.
Actually, that's a good idea. Put them on YouTube.
Because, not to go along with the people who maybe are just listening, but my boy Rob is a straight up rocket scientist.
Non-practicing rocket scientist.
Non-practicing.
Yeah.
Don't let his boyish looks with the cap and the headset fool you. That boy
Don't
is
let the fact that he looks like a 13-year-old boy fool the fact that my boy is an aerospace engineero.
he's like that Pokemon character, like whatever that Ash, right? That's him right there.
That's the main
Yeah.
Pokemon character. Yeah, I have that like
Yeah.
almost Asian look to myself, but
Yes.
just trying to
Yeah.
make yeah. I'm whatever. We're not going to go down that route.
Right.
Dennis, quick.
It's like
ask your
it's like
question again.
almost Asian. It's weird too because Dennis is actually Asian, but
South
sometimes I
Asian.
think like South Asian. But you're like, but Rob's got like Native American ancestry, which is just like West Asian.
just like traveled Asian.
Just
Traveled Asian.
well worn on the beaten path Asian. Just like, hey guys, like this is pretty dope, but what if we walked north for 100 years, west for another 100 years, and then south for another 100 years? Maybe it might be slightly better.
I mean, to be fair, I live in San Diego and it's fucking awesome. So, good choice.
Right,
Good,
correct.
Good career decision by those.
I'm just speaking of the intricacies of human migration.
Oh, Kevin, who really won the Sepang weekend? Tell us.
My boy, AM. Ass to mouth. I mean, Alex Marquez.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Don't act like you're above that. Don't act like.
I laughed real hard there. No,
Yeah, I laughed
no one's
real hard.
above ass to mouth jokes.
Yeah. Boom. I actually, Dennis asked me. I was stoked that Alex won.
Why?
Okay, let me tell you. One, because first we wanted to dislike Alex, right? He wins the
Nepotism.
Moto3 title, nepotism, right? But he wins the Moto3 title because he gets given the KTM killer bike. He wins not as many races as like Alex Rins
We were haters.
we were haters, right?
Yeah.
Louis Salam and all that, RIP. But and then he goes to Moto2 and he sucks, and we all love it because it was like he was handed the Moto3 champion. It kind of almost didn't feel real. It was going against, Miller, and then he goes to the best team, and he sucks. He doesn't do well, and like a lot of guys who switch from Moto3 to Moto2, he has a hard time. He gets some wins. Then we have that famous year where like no Spanish riders were winning, right? We kept saying that was like the countdown. Is a Spanish rider going to win? But what I like about this one is this kid, he sort of completed he actually had the tenements of the hero's journey that Marc Marquez is missing, which is he has his like the classic hero, right? You're the prince, you go out into the wilderness, you think you're tough shit, but then you're not. You get trained by some, Jedi master, you come back and all that or whatever. Alex Marquez had the go into the underworld, so to speak, right? Like in the Greek style. He had to travel through the underworld. He had to go down to no wins, doing terrible. He gets some wins, learns some stuff, and then he gets another setback, and he has to claw his way out. And then he gets the Triumph motor. He ends up, having a battle with Brad Binder. He has some stutters along the way, and he wins. I'm more compelled by Alex Marquez's championship than I ever thought I would be, mostly because the storyline of it is the storyline of, this kid is not as naturally talented as his brother. This kid is not had it, but yet he still has 2 world championships. He's the first person to win a Moto3 and a Moto2 world championship, which I thought was kind of an interesting way to carve out his own little niche. No one's won Moto3 and Moto2 yet.
Is the hero's journey like Dante's Inferno or Kill Bill?
No, so Dante's
both?
Inferno isn't even a hero's journey. Dante's Inferno is like revenge porn because he was exiled from Florence, so he had to go into the countryside. Then he just wrote a novel about going to hell, and all of the people he didn't like were in hell.
So not literally going to hell. It has to be like an actual journey of self-improvement here.
Yeah, and I just want to point out real quick, I'm not some noob that only read the Inferno. I've read Purgatorio and Paradiso. Purgatorio is easily the best of the Divine Trilogy, Divine Comedy. No question. Anyone who's actually read all 3 will know that Purgatorio is so much better than any of the other books. It's not even a comparison.
I didn't even know it
That's
was
the
3
one you should
separate
read.
books.
It's the
What the
Divine
hell?
Comedy is 3 separate books.
Apparently, I'm
Purgatorio
a noob.
is so much better than Inferno. It's not even. I mean, it's legitimately good. If you get a chance to read it, you can find a good translation of it. I'll highly recommend it. A footnoted translation would be important, so you can because so many of the references are contemporary to his time. But I highly recommend Purgatorio if you want to read some Italian classics. And for those of you who are questioning my interest in Italian classics, this is a copy of the Inferno. And I believe if I were to pull up when this was printed in 1786. So y'all can
Hot
eat
damn.
a dick. Bada boom.
That's an old
Okay?
dick.
That's an old dick. This shit is crusty. There is straight up dried schmegma all over this bad boy.
Do not invoke
It's got girth though. It's got a hella girth.
Hell
much
girth.
Things were girthier back then.
Anyways, no, the hero's Dante's is not relevant to the hero's journey. That's just more of a descriptive. It's not even really a novel or a story. There's no character development, truly. And he's obsessed with a chick, and that's why Paradiso sucks, because it's this like chick that takes him through heaven.
I love it when Kevin does this. I love it.
What?
It's great. You just took like what I thought was kind of like an innocent question, and like, no, that question, we're gonna do this.
We're gonna do this. So no,
It's a lot more loaded than Rob thought. Yeah.
Journey is more of if the hero's journey is more applicable to like Odysseus in the Iliad and the Odyssey, where you have a journey that requires like going to a foreign land, not doing well in the dangers or in the underworld, so to speak. In many cases, you meet like a magic person that gives you new powers. You meet someone who trains you. You meet like a mystic kind of person. But the point being is that it's a development that the hero initially thinks he is a hero, but he's not. He faces trials and tribulations that show that he isn't a hero yet. He addresses those trials and tribulations, comes out better for it, faces the initial challenge that he failed at, and wins, which is what Alex Marquez did with Moto 2 that Marc Marquez has not done in MotoGP or Moto 2 yet.
I mean, the part of that stuck out to me too was the kind of the humbling portion of like,
correct.
No, you're not actually all that yet. And Alex Marquez definitely has dealt with that essentially by getting spanked in what is a championship that a lot of people had him slated to win in Moto 2. And I mean, he's been on one of the best teams. Yeah. He's been on Marc VDS. They've done very well in the championship before, and consistently well is probably the main thing. But every single, like, he's had consistent challengers that have been able to beat him. I mean, even Zarco was able to accomplish 2 of them with him there the entire time. But this year, like, I don't know. One of the main reasons why I'm not sold on his season this year is kind of because I feel like instead of him earning it in an active way and actually like trouncing his competition, it was more his competition fell away. So it's just kind of something in my mind, like Dunlop changed the tires this year, bought a new larger rear tire. I feel like some of that could be contributed to why Balda has fallen off later on in the season, even though he won the first race with the new tires. So that's probably a stupid point. But it's always yeah, I mean, it's always something, right? Like someone will, I mean, it's just like Maverick in MotoGP, right? Does amazing in the first 4 rounds and then does absolutely nothing the rest of the season. That's exactly what Balda did this year in Moto 2. I'm pulling my hair out. Like, no, like you were supposed to make this interesting, and the middle was kind of weird because we were waiting for KTM to figure out the new chassis.
And I'll tell you this too. The thing about Alex Marquez's victory in the championship is like his brother wins, and they have we talked about this. He has a pool table. We've got video set up. It's all so perfectly, horribly choreographed and very like WWE-ish, but in a bad way. And then like Alex wins, and they're like, "What do we do?" And someone's like, "Give him a big ass dart." It has no reference to anything. There's no context. Just give him a big blue dart. The bike is blue. A dart. We got a
Perfect.
dart. It was the weirdest thing. Like, okay, like the 8 ball thing was horrible and cheesy and cringeworthy, and I don't know anyone that liked it. Right, but it made sense. Eight
Yeah,
championships, 8 ball. Okay, I don't know, but he was
there
like,
was symbolism.
right, there was
There
some
was
kind of
there was
context or a
nothing with a
pun.
dart.
I don't understand. They were just like, what if he has a big dart?
Their only plan for Alex Marquez was when he gets really close to winning the title, let's show Marc on the
Yes,
TV. That
right,
was their only plan.
exactly.
And actually, that's the part that I hate the most. I mean, actually, that's the only part that I really hate. But it's not Marc's fault. It's probably not Alex's fault. It's the producer of the show sitting in the trailer, like moving the knobs to decide
Well,
which feed to show.
and we've talked about this, right? Like I don't dislike Marc Marquez. I'm sure he's actually a rad dude. He's a cool ass guy, rides motorcycles and travels. He's well traveled and rides motorcycles. He's probably interesting. You know what I mean? It's the whole like marketing machine around him, and this is a perfect example. Some other dude is winning a championship, and the effective story is his brother's reaction.
Yeah,
Okay,
fuck, like,
not
and it was the last like 3 laps of the Moto2 race when they're showing Marc getting on a scooter. Fuck that guy that decided
right.
to show Marquez on the TV.
This is the problem. If you are not a Patriots fan and you're a Cardinals fan, there's plenty of times where you watch the Cardinals where the Patriots aren't relevant to the conversation. Like, even though the Patriots are going to win, or the Yankees are going to win, or John Jones is going to knock the guy out, if you don't like John Jones, but you like the light heavyweight division in the UFC, there's lots of fights to watch where John Jones isn't a part of it. But the nature of motorsports means you only have the one day to cover it, and they even like the whole like if you want to watch. If you're Czech and you like Carl Abraham, you're fucked. He just doesn't get covered. It doesn't matter that you like him. But now it's like, hey, I'm gonna watch Moto 2. MotoGP is boring for me right now, and they're gonna turn the whole Moto 2 race into the not Alex Marquez's reaction to finally clawing his way to that championship that they thought was predestined. They make it all about the brother.
Could you imagine if they showed Dalla Porta winning the Moto3 championship or whatever, and they're just showing like Marc Marquez like clapping,
Right.
it's just like, no, I don't care. Like, don't take the moment away from the person that actually accomplished the thing, just because you think
Yeah.
this guy is more entertaining or more important to the series. He's not. Let the kid win the series.
But that goes to why I was actually kind of stoked for Alex Marquez, because living in that shadow is tough. And I think obviously that was a pretty heavy weight that's a pretty heavy burden to be carrying. And I think it showed early on.
So
Because a lot of people said that he won the Moto3. And I think there's truth to that criticism, that his Moto3 championship was effectively not given to him, but he was given a bike that was so much better than any other bike on the grid that it was ridiculous.
Well, and that was back when. Actually, I can't remember if that was before Dorna got a handle on the Moto3 regulations. And
No, that was when they were like, yeah, you have to make it like $10,000 or whatever, and they would just sell it at the loss, or not sell it. I gotta plug this computer in real quick.
I feel like, I have one more question on Alex Marquez. Actually, Dennis, we're gonna go to you for this one.
Okay.
If he wins the next title and gets a Repsol seat or something because Jorge's going to retire, are you going to scream nepotism?
Yes. Because I think that's been the case even before he won his first title. The thing is, if you're asking me about Alex Marquez, what he's accomplished recently or what he's done in Moto2, I think it's interesting. I think I have a very short attention span when it comes to motorsport. Like, you only have maximum of maybe 2 years to do something. Otherwise, I'm going to move on from you. And I think that's
In any class, like in the specific class you're in, like what if they move up a class and then do something again? You get 2 more years?
I think so, pretty much. Two years max to do something amazing, or like to for me to be interested in you. Otherwise, I'm no longer going to be interested in you.
And Alex Marquez is on his 5th year. That he just
Pretty
accomplished
much.
his 5th
It's
year.
one of
in
those
Moto2.
like, that's nice, but probably should have done it like sooner than now. Because, like, right now, I am more ready to actually see him go up to the next level, whether that's MotoGP or something, and see what he can do. Whether or not he had a championship or a title under his belt, makes no difference to me at this point.
But it doesn't. The thing that sucks is there's so few seats another level up that it never
That's
works like
true.
that, right? Like what
That's
we've
true.
seen from Zarco and a few other riders that you need to spend 5 or 6 years in the middle class, do something notable, and then get a ride. Like it's not common for Mir or Fabio to just do one and out.
Well, you see Mirror, he did one and out, and he hasn't done shit. I
Apparently,
mean,
people are up on his jock about his feedback in Suzuki and his ability to hit other people on track.
right.
Pri-
But yeah, Mir didn't do anything, and you saw that when how long it took Miller. Well, Miller doesn't necessarily count because he was on that like shitty production Honda. It's a little different,
Yeah, we
but
have to disregard those years.
yes, exactly.
I just want to say that I think it's hard now. Like we've seen the Zarcos where they were smart and spent 2 years and won two world titles before moving up, and then when they were pretty brilliant, relatively speaking. And then when you see the Quartararo, where like there was no precedence to show what he could be doing now. So I I think for me, I just want to see what they could do in the premier class
It all
if the
goes to
opportunity.
machinery more that so than ever. Like Zarco, yeah, he was two-time champion. Well, Tito won the championship and was pretty damn close on his second one. He didn't repeat, but he was pretty good. And he didn't do shit because of the bike he was on. Zarco popped up, did well because he was on a good established team that did well. Quadraro, a lot of people called him the next Rossi early on, flashes of brilliance, all of those things. Like a lot of people said he was incredibly naturally talented, but what is he on? A really good bike, so to speak. Like Alex going up to MotoGP from Moto2, it has everything to do with bike. What bike you get on? Everything.
But I think what I'm trying to say is, for me personally speaking, is I stopped looking at the support classes and what people do in the support classes as a metric of what they could possibly do in GP. I just want to see them move up in GP and just see what they could do. Just because
Right.
I don't know what to expect anymore. Like we've
Well,
seen a variety of results from different people who have different types of, achievements or lack of in the support classes.
It was
it's
there
it's
was
funny
def
the middle. Let me take this. The middle ground is gone, right? You said someone will spend 5 6 years in there and get a championship, or someone will do one and out, right? Won't have any results. The middle ground used to be you spent 3 years, like you got one or two championships, and then you for sure got a GP ride. Like Pedrosa won two, Dovi won one after Jorge and Pedrosa left, right? Like those guys were for sure slated from a 250cc championship to move up to GP.
Yep.
But no one does that anymore. Now,
Nope.
now you're stuck. It's either 6 years or 1 year, which is weird. It's super weird.
it's only weird because everyone's looking for the next silver bullet to beat Marquez.
Yep.
What's interesting is when you looked at the 250cc era, it was like if you could win a 125cc championship and do pretty good at 250, you were gonna like get a ride in GP and do pretty decent. If you won the 250cc championship, most likely you were gonna do really well. You were penciled in as like a pretty good guy.
Well,
And those
and
people
you'd
who
win
did
a
well,
race in your rookie season.
yes, or you would be competitive. And Marco Melandri didn't win a race in his rookie season, but as soon as he got off the tech for Yamaha and got onto a Honda, he won a bunch of races. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like Pedrosa won a rookie.
Satellite bike.
Stoner didn't win a race, but he had those flashes, pole and second places and leading races and all those things. And not even just those guys, like even Dovizioso, he didn't win the 250cc championship, but he was good in 250. He won 125, and he got a satellite ride early on, podiumed his first year, and then got a factory ride the next year. Like there's a ton of guys out there that were like that, and when you won in 250, it was rightfully so assumed that you were competitive and ready for a GP and you were going to do well. But Moto 2 doesn't seem to be that way at all. Moto2 championships haven't done, other than Marc Marquez, Moto2 champions haven't done shit.
Yeah.
Like they're no,
Because of Marc Marquez.
because of him, but also because they're not getting. It used to be that if you won the 250cc championship, you were penciled into. You look at Lorenzo, penciled in at a factory Yamaha. Look at Pedrosa, penciled in at a factory Honda. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Marco Melandri wins it, and he gets onto a good Honda a year or two afterwards. It's you're penciled in for good bikes. You were considered that, but you don't see that with Moto2 championships at all. Like outside of Marc Marquez, none of the Moto2 champions have gone to like good factory bikes early on, and or in pencil. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. And it's not going to
it's
change. That's the thing too, right? We're going to
right.
need there has to be some huge like outflux of riders from the factory seats for that to even be considered. And that's not
Right.
going to happen anytime soon. Like the age of all the riders on the factory seats is quite wide at the moment, with Rossi being super old and Maverick not being old at all. So they're going to stick around. Maybe one will get a factory ride and someone's going to take it from their satellite-ish team. So
Right. But what
yeah.
you don't have is the top teams penciling in those talents. Like, you know, remember back in the day, like Lorenzo, this pre-contract. You know what I mean? Like, those guys were signing pre-contracts.
Yeah, before he even started his second year in
Yeah,
the
but to
middle
be
class.
factory riders, and now
Yeah.
you don't see that. I don't understand. I'm interested to know why that is. Like, is Moto3 just simply not a good training ground to start people off? Or, you know, because Marc Marquez was still 125cc champion. No Moto3 like champions, you know, the Maverick hat is, but he's the one. Maverick was pretty good in Moto3 and he's gone to win some races, but you wonder why that pipeline seems to have changed so dramatically.
It probably more has to do with the teams, right? Like they're what am I trying to say here? They're just it's not that there's not a feeder system, it's just that there's less kind of control over who's coming up, right? Like I mean, what Chevy Vierge has now ridden for like is next year is going to ride for 5 different teams in 5 years
Right.
in Moto 2, right? Most of the Moto 2 teams and Moto 3 teams, aside from the obvious feeders, are independent bodies that don't have the same sponsors. Like Repsol isn't sponsoring anyone in the middle class, right? Like
Right.
there's no Danny Pedrosa that has had a contract, or Marc Marquez that has had a contract since before they made it into 125.
Right, you remember Danny Pedrosa was sponsored by Telefonica, and they wanted him, or by Telefonica Movie Star, and they wanted him on their team. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And they left MotoGP for like a decade because of that whole controversy. Like, there was Ryder, you know, like Valentino with his beer sponsor. You know, like it's crazy that there were riders in the smaller classes back in the day that had personal sponsors that carried weight in the paddock. No one has that now. No one in Moto2 has that shit. It's almost like it's too cheap and it lost its prestige.
Well, like, and KTM has now since kind of pulled out. Like, I think they're still going to be working with Akiayo to keep their feeder system going.
Right.
But they're not going to be making a chassis anymore in Moto2 for next season. So their feeder system is broken. It's divided in the middle. And even feeding out of Moto3, the fact that it's just Honda and just KTM, like it and what everyone's
Hey,
complaining
and Husqvarna with Max Biaggi Racing Team announced today.
Yeah, that so counts. That so counts.
Bitch, that hella counts. What are you talking about?
They make chains. They're It's KTM.
They make chainsaws, son.
Yeah, I know
I'll
they make
cut you.
chainsaws. They will. All right, whatever. Let's move on from that. I'm gonna put you guys on the spot.
Ooh, my fave.
I'm gonna do this first. You got time to think about it.
All right.
I'm gonna give you my highlight of the past 2 weekends, and it's gonna be something completely off the wall. I just have to tell everyone about this. Simon Crafar. So I want to hear your highlights in a second here. Simon Crafar goes to interview Marc Marquez in Parc Fermé after the Sepang race, right? And Marc does a weird thing, which never happens, where he has to talk to a crew member or something. He tells Simon to wait, which was weird. That's not my highlight. My highlight was Simon Crafar asks him, "Are you happy with second place?" Marc pauses. His face, you can see him. He dies inside, just dies. And he does a long drawn out, and I prayed to God that he was going to say no. But he didn't, unfortunately. My highlight is that glimmer of hope that I had that he was going to say no. And he was actually going to be like a relatable human being as opposed to a T1000.
Right.
So that was my highlight of the weekend. I just felt like Marc almost shone through the corporate bullshit and didn't give us I was happy with second place, because HRC and
Because
Repsol
I'm always
and
happy because
racing.
I'm contractually obligated to smile 87% of the day. The other 13%, I'm supposed to stick my tongue out.
I was gonna say the other 13% he voluntarily does it, but that makes sense too.
Right, exactly.
All right, who wants to go next?
My highlight of the weekend was that after Alex Marquez won his world championship, him and his brother didn't make out.
That I am also thankful for that. Now that you bring that up, thank you very much.
Right.
That's a good one.
Because while the old line, incest is the best, put your brother to the test, rings true. It just wasn't, I was like, I've seen that before. It's old news. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to have to see them make out and then get like 1,000 messages from our BrotoGP fans being like, look at this. He makes out his brother. Like, no, my actual highlight of the weekend, aside from not watching, blood relatives make out, which just never gets like it's weirdly fascinating. Is because he wasn't hurt, that crash, where Fabio. My highlight. Let me back this up a little bit. Sorry, guys. I'm still stuck on the whole brother on brother action.
I can tell in a weird way.
Right. If you've got a bilf, that's what you got. You got to go with it.
Got a bilf.
Oh my god. No one coined that term, please.
No one coined that term. That's a BrotoGP original. That's the kind of hard hitting, in-depth news analysis that you get from us.
The B might stand for BrotoGP. I'd like to.
Yeah, exactly. The B stands for bilf.
Oh no.
Right. I want to build you up. Okay, no, because I don't want to ever see a rider get hurt. And obviously this weekend we saw the worst thing that could happen with a rider getting hurt, where an Asia Cup talent rider unfortunately passed away. But knowing that he didn't get hurt, he had a couple bruised elbows and he was fine, was that Fabio basically baited Marquez into finally getting bit and just eating shit. Like when you watch those surf videos where the guys are surfing mega waves and they just fucking wipe out and you're like, oh, fuck, like, is that guy gonna die? And then he's fine. So you're like, damn, that guy ate shit. Like, that was literally how it was. Like, he comes off and straight face plants. And I was like, that's what you get, motherfucker. Like, fucking finally. You know what I mean? Like, fucking finally something didn't go picture perfect script written form in every single way. I'm honestly glad he wasn't hurt. I wouldn't have said this if there was some kind of injury, but then he just fucking hit the deck. Like he looked like when you were 12 and you got into skateboards and your dad was like, let me try that. It doesn't look so hard. Dennis knows this from experience. And you get on the driveway and you're looking at your dad and you're like 8 or 12 or 10 and your dad thinks he's hot shit, but like he's 10 years past his physical prime by far, and his athletic coordination has dropped precipitously in those 10 years. He gets on that skateboard, he drops in on the fucking little quarter pipe you built in your backyard and just slunk, done, just and that was like what Marc Marquez, he looked like an out of shape middle-aged dad who thought he could rip and couldn't and just hit the deck hard.
I love how he tried to run it out, like full on sprint, like midair, and then like no, you're doing 60 miles an hour.
And just like a fucking dad who won't admit he fucked up, they're like, what were you doing? It's like, I wasn't following Fabio. I was looking for another rider. Like, shut the fuck up. Like the dad who eats shit on the skateboard. There was a rock. It hit a piece of bark. You didn't see it hit the bark, the wheels. The bearing's fucking loose on one side. It wasn't my fault. Like, he couldn't even just own it that he fucked up. He had to be like, I was looking for another rider. What other rider were you looking for? Pecco Bagnaia? I mean, what are you talking about? You were looking for someone else to tow? Come on, man. You fucked up.
Yep. All right.
Right.
I'm feeling you there, Kev. That's solid.
Yeah,
that's my highlight.
That was pretty much my highlight too. So much so that I made a video out of it, like you guys know.
You gotta pick another one, Dennis. You gotta pick another one.
No, because actually the next topic we have, I can't wait to listen to the two of you talk about.
Wait,
Because
we have another topic? No, we're
yes,
done.
we have another topic. So I'm clearly, well, maybe Rob too, but I'm a Yamaha guy, as you can see. So what's to say here about
Oh, I forgot about this
Yamaha
topic.
V4? Like I really didn't hear anything about it
Damn
until you
it.
guys brought it up today. So what's
God
going
damn
on?
it. Like, I write these things on the syllabus and Dennis brings them up. Ugh.
That's right.
Right. Correct. To give some context, Yamaha has clearly been struggling this year and the previous year, and the thing that happens every couple years when one of the teams struggles is you gotta build a V4. If they don't build a V4, they can't win. That's kind of like the online chatter, and one of the talking points is that, like, as long as they have an inline four, they're not going to. Excuse me. As long as they have an inline four, they're not going to do well. And the key to their problem is that they have an inline four, or they have not a V4, yada yada yada. So I kind of vehemently disagree with that concept that they need to make a V4, and that's the root of their problems. I think that's what Dennis was getting to.
Word.
Vehemently, in the most monotone, like low, chill voice possible.
Yes.
No, I just it's sad that it comes up. It comes up just as often as Honda producing a V4 Superbike,
Huh? Which is never going to happen. Stop,
which
guys.
is never gonna.
Stop.
Yeah, just stop.
Right.
Just
Yamaha-
get over
Yamaha's
never
it.
gonna
likely to
happen.
adopt a V4 than Honda
Right.
releasing a V4.
Right.
Is that true?
Is what true? What? I
No,
didn't hear. What do you say?
is the M1 more likely to be a V4 or the CBR more likely to be a V4?
Neither's going to happen.
Yeah, but which one's
Neither is
more
gonna
like?
happen.
You're right. They're both
That's
More
not,
likely?
That's not one. Neither one is more likely.
Zero
So
is the
immovable
same as
object,
zero.
unstoppable force.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much
exactly.
exactly the same thing. No, I mean, Yamaha's problem right now has nothing to do with their engine configuration. Yes, they have tire wear issues at some tracks in some weather conditions. Obviously, at Sepang, they didn't have tire wear issues. Everyone else had tire wear issues. Like at Sepang, they have a track where 3/4 of the track is you make up time by taking fast sweeping lines through a bunch of fast corners, and then you kind of just deal with the 2 slow drives. Worked out great for them. I mean, at Phillip Island, Maverick probably lost the race because he had a little bit too aggressive tire wear out of the final corner and wasn't able to keep the left side of the tire solid. But it's just like switching to a V4 isn't going to change any of that if their electronics are still a piece of shit.
The actual problem.
Yeah.
The ability to harness power and get it to that razor, the very tip top point of that via the electronics.
And I said earlier in this episode that there was a rumor that Yamaha actually reduced their horsepower to get a handle on their tire wear and the electronics for this season, right?
It reminds me when Ducati was struggling mightily, and everyone was like, it's because it's a 90 degree. Right?
Yeah,
it's a
90 degree V4.
And then Honda, it turned out like a year later, Honda's like, oh yeah, we're 90 degrees too. Remember that? Like, and it just shut, like David Emmett spent like 18 months talking about this, and then Pooj was like, yeah, it's been a 90 degree V4 for like 6 years. And they're like, oh, fuck. Like, it's not that they're an inline four. Because the Suzuki won 2 races this year and is doing really well with a bunch of podiums. And they're an inline four. The fucking Aprilia sucks balls, and the KTM sucks balls, and their V4s. It comes much more down to so many other factors than just the engine configuration. It's
a package. The entire motorcycle.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say the question of Yamaha adopting V4 makes me think about Suzuki. I mean, they tried it with the GSV-R. It didn't work. They had like one wet win, I think, but then
with Christopher Mullen, but they didn't do shit.
After the hiatus, they come back with the GSX, RR with the inline four because they have plenty of experience on that. And not only did they have multiple wins, they have 2 different riders win on that bike.
Well, and that's the thing with Suzuki. If anything, that highlights stick with what you know.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. They made a new Gixxer 1000. Obviously, their Gixxer 1000 was amazing in America and probably in a bunch of other championships a decade ago. They make a new one. Tony Elias has success with it in America. I actually don't know about the rest of the championships, national championships in the world. Well, he even Leon Haslam
Fucking
was on the Suzuki.
Troy Corser won it on the Gixxer 1000 back in the day. Max
Yeah.
Biaggi won his first World Superbike race. The only guy to
That's
win
right.
his first MotoGP race and his first World Superbike race.
Yeah,
Low key,
so
Max Biaggi is my fucking hero.
they had experience with an inline four. They bring it back in MotoGP. What's his face? What's the guy heading up the team in freaking GP now
Davide
for
Brivio?
Suzuki? Yes,
Brivio.
Davide Brivio. Like essentially
suck,
just
Rob.
convinces Suzuki to invest more money into MotoGP for that. Like essentially since they've come back, they got a good rider in Maverick Vinales. They've continued to invest. They have Alex Rins now, and they're 7 points behind the top Yamaha in the championship right now, and they can't
Dennis,
freaking
that goes
qualify.
for our last point.
They-
Nope. Nope.
Dennis, are we not bringing it up, Dennis?
Nope.
I mean, the last time I brought up a bet on this podcast, I lost, but I also
Was
lost
it
to
$100?
No, it was.
Mightily.
Then
it was
shut up.
It was $5.
Look at Dennis really worried about his $100 bet. He's got his Yamaha track bike behind him. Directly to the right of it is like an MV Agusta, and like to the right of that is an Aprilia.
Dude.
And then he's got like his purebred French bulldog that's not allowed in the room because it'll mess up the like patent leather furniture he has with his signed autographed Casey Stoner fucking
Yeah,
poster
but
in his background.
Kev, he's got 2 kids. Like
No,
he
no,
got
no,
all
no,
that
no.
before the kids, so he
There's
doesn't have $100.
$100, and then there's a season-long $100. There's a distinction. There's
Right.
a
I don't
lot more
understand.
invested.
I don't
Yes, there's a
understand.
lot more time invested and emotions invested with this $100 than what you can get out of your bank.
Oh, so the $100 bill is like the first $100 bill you ever had in your wallet, and now you have to give it up if you like.
It's,
You bet
it's
that
no
one.
longer about the monetary value. It's about the principle behind
It's
it.
the intrinsic value behind Dennis's self-worth and knowledge of the sport.
Oh man! If
Yes,
Dennis,
thank you.
if you needed like knowledge about the sport, you should have just asked me, and I would have told you not to make that stupid bet. You
Oh
gonna
my goodness.
lose.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks.
No, yeah. So yeah.
V4.
Suzuki versus Yamaha V4. Actually, I4 versus I4. Straight 4 versus straight 4. We'll get back to that. The Yamaha, they have poached electronics engineers from Jack Miller, from Ducati, and I'm sure we're going to hear about 2 or 3 more before the season starts next year. They are in search of more horsepower, and they're in search of actually being able to use that horsepower with quality electronics. If there's anything that we can speculate at, it's that they don't have a handle on the Magneti Marelli spec electronics that they've been using for this current era of MotoGP, because they haven't done shit.
In search of accessible horsepower.
Yeah. It's actually fun. You know what? I heard something in Moto 2 the other day. It probably was at Phillip Island. Calex is developing a carbon fiber swing arm for next year. And I can't remember if it was Simon or if it was one of the announcers that said, apparently the carbon fiber swing arm in MotoGP allows 20-degree reduced tire temperatures.
No, that's interesting. Rob, why would that be?
Because it's
Or how?
it's a freaking game. Well, I mean, okay,
Why
we'll do
and
why
how is
first.
the same question.
Definitely not the same question. It's a game changer. The why is it's a game changer, right? Because if you're trying to get the tires to operate in a certain window of tire temperature, right? You're like they're tire warmers in MotoGP, unlike track day tires or whatever. Track day tires you set to 80 degrees Celsius. MotoGP, they put them at 100 Celsius. Last time I heard. These tires are made to run hot, but at the same time, any of these riders can overheat the tires in one lap if they felt like it. If you put me on the motorcycle, I'm going to not get the tire hot enough. It's a constant battle between getting the tire up to perfect operating temperature and keeping it there so you can have optimal grip and optimal tire wear. If there's one thing we know about Yamaha, it's they've been sucking at both of those things. Right? So like Ducati running a carbon fiber swing arm, HRC developing one, and Marquez using it only for qualifying in the race, and then finally them making enough so they can run it the entire weekend. That changes the setup, right? You got to make sure that those tire pressures are perfect, that the temperature is great. So like Yamaha is struggling with all this, and they've gone back and forth now on the carbon fiber swing arm. at the same time, we also see like the underswing arm air ducts, right, for tire cooling,
Yes.
also for
Scoops.
downforce. Yeah, every prototype series on the planet is searching for being able to put the most load into the tires while also keeping them at optimal operating conditions. I'm not going to bring up the series that should not be named, but they've been
Right.
doing that with wheel designs. There's so much stuff going on all that. And so to hear that you can get 20 degrees lower tire temperature out of a swing arm material is insane. I heard this. I heard something actually similar from the tuned mass dampers that we're seeing on the Moto 2 swing arms.
I guess you may not be able to answer this. I don't know, but why does carbon fiber allow that
I will.
versus stamped aluminum or whatever they were doing before? Do you know offhand, or I mean, you
I
have
will. I
any?
can speculate.
Sure,
I will speculate.
yeah. I
The
mean,
there
that's what we do.
it's all about oscillations, right? So
Okay.
you can tune oscillations in carbon fiber kind of dramatically more than you can in aluminum. I would suspect that if the tire, if like think of it like chatter, like if the tire has tiny amounts of chatter, such that you can't even really see it on film, or maybe you can't even really see it on the data, it is vibrating, it's flexing, it's going to heat up more. If carbon fiber dampens out those oscillations, just
Right.
like a mass tune damper would, like in Moto 2, you're going to run lower tire temperatures.
Okay.
That's my speculation on how. But wait,
Intriguing.
where were we going with this? I can't remember. Yeah, I mean it's Yamaha is trying to bring in all of these things, right? They produce a carbon fiber swing arm. Rossi runs it for like 2 rounds. I actually don't know if it's on the bike now. Maverick runs it for a couple of practice sessions. Doesn't race on it. Obviously Yamaha, or not obviously, but it seems like Yamaha is able to get amazing tire temperature for 1 lap, which would help Fabio and Maverick and Franco get really good qualifying laps. Even Rossi at the recent tracks seems to be qualifying. Like at Sepang, I was actually surprised that he was that high up in qualifying. But that tells me that they're running the tires hot. It also agrees that if they run the tires hot, they're going to wear them faster and they're not going to be there at the end of the race, which is kind of what we've seen out of Rossi. We saw that at Phillip Island.
Right.
They
So
need to eliminate that trade-off, huh?
yeah, I mean it goes back to the original point of this is they're fighting to get the whole package working. Changing their motor from a straightforward to a V4 is not going to be a magic bullet. They've got to poach engineers from Ducati, from HRC if they can, to get their electronics sorted. They've got to stick to a swing arm design and a chassis design that they know works, and then do iterative design, just small improvements instead of this back and forth that we've seen out of them. And then they got to produce more horsepower. It's gonna be a pain in the ass. I,
Yeah.
do, I don't expect them to be dramatically faster next year. The chances of I mean, I guess we saw it at HRC, right? HRC somehow produced 20 more horsepower this year and was able to keep up with the Ducati. But at the same time, they had the trade-off, like we said earlier, that none of the under Honda riders besides Marquez could ride it.
Right. It's just significantly more unrideable every year.
So if
And it was
Yamaha
only a
does
couple
that,
years ago that Cal was winning multiple races a season, and now he's nowhere to be found. And Lorenzo was basically saying, "This bike is so unrideable, I'm not going to break my back to do it."
yeah. And so if Yamaha produces a bike that's more difficult to ride, does only Fabio show the skill to be able to ride it? That'd be
But at
something.
this point, you have to think it doesn't matter. You just need the one. If you look at, you know,
Fuck.
Suzuki only has one rider who can do well. Honda only has one rider who can do well. Yamaha only has one rider that can win a race. It's not the days where teams had, there was,
It's not 2003 HRC V5
or 2010
or
um
2006 or yeah.
Yamaha, 2000 or 2012 2011 Honda. There was a time period where there was a time when I kind of liked where they were going with the 2A riders. You know what I mean? Like Yamaha had They didn't have an A and a B rider. They had Lorenzo and Rossi, and they pitted them against each other. Honda had Pedrosa and Stoner, or Pedrosa and Marquez. It pitted them against each other. There was not an A, or Ducati even had Dovizioso and Nicky. And there was no, I think that the time period when there was no A rider, or no B rider, excuse me, only A riders, ended up working really well. And what we're seeing is a return, a very stark, clear return to like the A and the B rider.
Yeah, I mean, if when there's a solitary A rider that ups the game, like teams probably are going to do that first, right? I mean, from the machinery side of things, I already brought up the V5 Honda, right? That bike was around for so long, it was so good that they could just give it to anyone and it would work, right? We're not there now. Like there isn't a single bike on the grid that you can give to anyone and they can ride it well. It's pick and choose.
And Rob is not exaggerating either. If you go back and you look at like 2002, where Valentino had the V5 and a lot of other riders, and then they started giving that V5 to guys like Alex Barros at the end of the season, they just won right away. Like Alex Barros and Caparossi just won, right? Like, literally, you look at those seasons where you would see Seti Gibernau, Max Biaggi, and Nicky Hayden, Tony, like so many different
Marco
guys
Andri.
were able to win on that and win like pretty quickly on it. It was crazy, or Lorenzo coming straight to the Yamaha and winning on it, or it's odd to see the bikes become so specialized that only a handful of riders again can win on it. The riders that they're developing the bikes for.
It's a different era because we've gone like that era that you're describing is not spec tire, not spec electronics, not even like lower fuel limits, right?
No, yeah,
Now,
no motor limits either. Just doing burnouts after every win.
I love
burning your
that
tires
Jack. I love that Jack did a burnout. I wonder if he got
Fuck it.
fined for it.
Yeah,
At Phillip
exactly.
Island.
Who cares? Take the fine. Someone pay that fine. You know what I mean? Like,
Someone
that's
did.
Just how it is.
Someone
Yeah,
probably he was at the bar that night and someone
Right.
paid the fine if there is a
Yeah.
fine. Making that
Right.
up. All right, guys. I think we got to round this one out. I've
rounded out.
rounded it out. That like chill dog on your shirt is still getting me every single time I look down there. I love it.
Dang.
It's
Dennis-
like somebody yawning, right? You start yawning too.
Dennis,
Yeah,
what's on your sweater? I mean, I know it's a Golden Gate Bridge, but what is
No,
it?
it's just my old MMA gym.
Anime gym.
Oh,
MMA gym.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
that makes more sense. Wait, someone earlier said that there's only one left. Who of you two can I count on for like a Highlander joke every now and again?
What I love? What do you? Highlander won the Oscar for best movie of all time. What are you talking about? There can be only one. Do you prefer Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod or Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod? Me personally, I was a Duncan MacLeod fan because Duncan had the fucking ponytail and like Duncan
Dude, the
was
badass theme song, by the way?
and
Oh my
by
God.
Queen
Yeah.
did the whole
Oh my
here
God.
we
Yeah.
are
Queen did
born to
to
be
be
king.
king.
We're the princes of the universe.
No question. Duncan.
All right,
Should
Kevin.
have been Dante Duncan. Damn.
And when they're fighting with fucking swords and the lightning and shit is
Words.
hitting, that show was so good. When Duncan killed Richie on accident, a part of me died inside. A part of me died inside.
I love this. Oh, this is so great.
That was good. And
All
then
right, so
like
That might have been the
then.
first time that you saw a duet in BrotoGP, by the way.
I think that was.
exactly.
I think that was.
It would be like the princes of the universe, and they hit that power chord.
We're gonna have to update our theme song to that, I think.
I am immortal.
Yep.
I have inside me blood of kings.
All right, we just lost everyone because Kev had a firm no
No, it's
singing
because they're
policy.
looking at the theme song on YouTube. That's why we lost them.
First of all, if you think we lost viewers because I am going to go on an epic rant about the mid 90s Highlander TV show, you are straight up wrong, son. That show was so good. That show was so good. And then, like, just when you thought it was going to get stagnant because they had like every year, everyone, it was like, okay, Duncan's lived everywhere in the world and apparently has met every mortal, and you're getting a little worried. Then, just like Rossi leaving to go to Yamaha, they dropped the Four Horsemen. It turned out the original Four Horsemen were based on four immortals that run around, and Mythos was actually working with the Watchers the whole time. What?
I think people just jumped into Wikipedia to confirm what you just said, Kev.
This is for reals.
I need to go
If
watch
you
that.
haven't seen the 1995 through like 1998 Highlander TV show, that shit was on TNT up all night. You could find that so good. USA, remember USA? God, that was a good station.
Didn't
that
it become
was
like
that,
FX
that
or something?
channel
FX
was the
just,
best.
FX
The Highlanders.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I got nothing now. I'm actually cutting you guys off. So.
What? No, we're talking about Highlander right now.
We gotta leave them hanging. We gotta leave.
No,
Well, first of all, I'm gonna cut you off. Like you're just gonna chop your head off.
You're gonna chop my head. Rob's hitting me with a quickening right now.
No, Rob. I have a quick request on this episode. So you do a hard cut at the end.
Yeah.
Then insert the Queen theme song. Just play it.
We have to find like a royalty free version of it or something.
Yes, exactly.
Just like the first 10 seconds, man. Come on.
Okay, you know what? The cool thing is there's no like copyright check on iTunes, so I could do it for
just
the
like 10
podcast.
seconds. Title of Rob Sex Tape.
Oh, I'd be fine with that. All right, everyone.
All right.
If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Please do us a favor and subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers. I know it's a small number, but we got to shoot for something. No jokes? No jokes? Okay.
That was really, really sad, by the way.
I know.
Sad. Just cut that part out.
Okay.
Just cut
We'll
that
put
part
that
out.
in there.
Don't bring it up.
Like this.
Bring it up.
It's like begging.
Yeah.
Please. If you're on iTunes, Google Play, awesome. Tell your friends. And we will talk to you after Valencia. Peace.
Word.